Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to the Ruby Girl Talk. Listen, y'all, it has been a long time. It has been a year since I have broadcast, and within that year's time, life has changed so much for me. I'm now married with 5 kids. No, I'm just kidding, y'all. Hey, it's only
I
been
love it.
2 weeks. It's only been 2 weeks. So happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the Ruby Girl Talk. And as you can tell, my guest tonight is live and ready to go. We're going to have an exciting, amazing time tonight. So, in case you didn't know, first of all, I'm your favorite Ruby girl. That's all you need to know. But I am Dr. Karron Dodd, and I am the owner of his designs, the creator of the Ruby Girl brand. So, tonight I'm just going to get into my introduction because we're ready to go. So, Ruby Girl comes from Proverbs 31 and 10. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above the price of a ruby. So, ladies, I say this special is always for you. Makes you rare, value, and valuable and virtuous. There we go. It's been a while since I said it, ladies. I think
Come
I
on
got a
now.
little rusty, but I'm back with my pitch. So, anyway, if you want to connect with me, you can go to rubygirl.net, and Ruby Girl gives you a platform to tell your story, to give a voice to your pain, and to also connect with the people that's on my network. My people love the network. They love to connect. They love the support. And so when you come on the Ruby Girl show, trust me, you're going to be connected with somebody. Get in Dr. K's network. I'm telling you. So tonight, this young lady interviewed me last year, and so I have the honor of interviewing her. So I have to be on my best P's, my best Q's, everything I dotted, everything crossed. So, Miss Jasmine Bailey, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. Happy 2025 to you. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am ready for this. I miss my audience. I miss my people.
I bet.
For a minute, I got a little rusty, didn't even know how to get on Zoom. Girl, don't tell nobody. I just told everybody. So I'm going to
You
let you
just told.
introduce yourself before I embarrass myself anymore.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Bailey. I am a healthy life designer, and I am worthy. I am wise. I am loved. I am a daughter of the king. I am wealthy. I am loving, and I am enough. That is what I always say. And you can always find me on, we'll talk about it a little bit more, www.hbdbook.com. And I'll get more into it about the workbook. I had to say that. So, so
I
I'll
love
give you
it.
more information.
All right, so we're going to leave you with a lot of cliffhangers because I left her with one before we even got started. So, somewhere during the show, my surprise for her is going to pop up. It's just gonna pop up. It's just gonna
Okay.
appear just before you. So we're gonna get
Okay.
started. So what I like when she says she's a healthy life designer. So this is what I picture when you say healthy life designer, because you're gonna tell
Mm-hmm.
us what you do is one. I picture somebody that's in bad health. You get them together, you get their life together, like a physical trainer, but it's more than that. So
Mm.
you tell us what a healthy life designer does.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you had that image. So, without it being specific to the physical area, it's actually six areas. So, it's emotional, financial, physical, relational, spiritual, and vocational, or work and or your business and career, which is your purpose. So, when I say I'm a healthy life designer, it's not that I am an expert in trying to tell everyone what to do to design everything. I facilitate a healthy and an intentional life in those six areas because that's something that I started doing. It was in 2016 where the term came to me for healthy by design. So for me living moving forward from October of 2016 until now, I've been living a practice of healthy by design. So I was like, I'm a healthy life designer. So in those six areas, it's not to overwhelm, but it's actually similar to what you're saying. I've had to get different resources, coaches, mentors, advisors, community in those different areas. So the way that I design, I am what people call me either the plug, the connection queen. I am putting people together, but that's what I had to do for myself. So that is what a healthy life designer does. Instead of trying to do everything on my own, I am being intentional in those six areas to create a life that's healthy by design and not by default, and just hoping that something will be manifested or happen if I just wish it to be. So I'm very intentional in those 6 areas. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And what I want to pull out right quick is what you said, living by default. Do you think
Yes.
most people live by default? That just what happens happens, and you think successful people live intentional?
I definitely think for your first question, yes. I was going to try to pull a percentage. I know that's how I lived for so long. It was just like whatever came or whatever I came into, I would just like if I would take this job or this guy liked me. Obviously, we like people, but it was more of, oh, this job is nice. This area it wasn't something intentional. So, what I did find out to answer your second question, yes, successful people, they live intentionally. They're not just taking whatever comes, and they still get things that come their way. But what I've learned and what I'm even living now, I get to decide if I want to accept something or if I want to reject it. So, that's the intentionality. So, we still have days. I told you before we even got on this live that I left my computer at my co-working space. And I was just like, okay. But what I said to you, what I chose not to do is to get all harried and just be like, oh my goodness, you don't believe, oh my gosh. Intentionally, I said, um, don't speed up. Don't come in like everything is crazy. Intentionally, I was like regulating myself to say it's going to be okay. You'll eat later, and then it'll all be okay. So yes, I do believe a lot of people by default live by default because it's more the norm, like the average. If you think about what average mean, it's like the majority. But then to live intentionally, that takes more effort, that takes more energy, that takes more intention. So it's something that we have to lean into. So I definitely agree with you, and I would say a yes for both. People that live by default is unfortunately sometimes the majority, but successful people do not live by default.
Hmm. That's deep what you just said. It really put a a lot of thought because I always try to be transparent. I believe I have been living by I live by default for so long, and default comes from the people that you've been around, your family, their expectations for you. And then one day you wake up and say, this not even the life I wanted.
That
And
part.
that's what I like. You a healthy life designer. You help people live to stop living by default and start
Yes.
to live intentionally.
Yes, and what I love that you said, being transparent, I started with me. So, like, even the term, like you're asking me, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna be a healthy life designer. Literally, what happened was a coach, I had a 15-minute coaching call, and they said to me, they gave me the activity to put on a piece of paper. It was a big sticky note and just write things that I had since I was a little girl, things that I wanted, things that I could remember, and just put it all down. So to your point, I said 2016, which is now is that 8 years or
Eh,
9 years?
8,
Okay.
be 9
So
this year.
8 years. So from that time frame, I have been intentional about it. But up until then, yes, I had many wins, but I had many losses too. But more than the wins, it was a default type of thinking. We have, I'm not blaming anyone, but we do have, there's this term that I heard from this piece of work that's been very helpful and instrumental to me. People, they say Jesus is in our hearts, but grandpa is in our bones. Meaning, yes, we love Jesus, but what we have that we haven't even um, looked at, observed, or not aware of, that unconscious mind that we have, that's pretty much steering our ship a lot of time. And there's the thought. If we don't know, like, well, we always talk this loud like you're yelling. But everybody in my family talks this way. You know, you're yelling at me, and you never question or you never, are curious to say, does it have to be this loud all the time? No judgment, but just curiosity. But I agree with you. That's why I came into this work and practice for myself. It wasn't so that I can point my finger at people and say, you need to do. I start looking in the mirror for me and saying, like, the way that my life is coming together, I
Mm,
don't like all of the results and outcome. What do I need to do to craft and again design it in a way that it's the life I love and not just the life that I live because it comes to me. So very transparently, I will never allow someone to think that I have all the answers. I seriously am grateful for people, resources, connections that I've had. And that's what's helped me to see from a broader perspective. Meaning, like, the world isn't as small as I think
uh-huh.
in my own mindset, and just being able to be broadened. So I think that's a big part of it. So thank you for calling out the transparency. I want people to know that I'm not somebody who's saying, you got to do, you have to do, you have to
Mhm.
do. I literally have been doing and changing and transforming internally and externally because I want to live a specific life intentionally healthy. So that's where it comes from.
Mm. So you were talking about grandpa is in your bones, but Jesus is in your heart.
Uh huh.
And you're right, because a lot of things for us are like generational. Like you
Yes,
said, that we learn our first teachers are our parents or the people that raise us. That's our first teachers, you know.
that's exactly it.
And we learn as children by observing, watching, you know, when people like don't do when parents like don't do as I do,
I
do as I say,
do I say,
kids
yeah,
imitate. We imitate. That's how we learn how to walk. You know, we
that's it.
crawling is good, and then we like, wait a minute, this look a little different than what they're doing. So you have a book out. This one of your books. It's called
Yes.
Finding a Space in Life, right? Is this wait a minute. Could this possibly
Oh, there it is. You got it. I thought it was
Yes,
coming later.
I did too. It was on my porch today. So that's your surprise. It's hard to
That's
show it
awesome.
on Zoom. Zoom is so horrible. Look.
Yeah, mine does the same thing too. Let me see.
Yeah, you
I
know
can
what I
find mine.
did with mine? I'm trying my best with the light, y'all. It's
I
coming in
had
a
to do
little
it
bit.
too.
It
Yeah.
ain't work. Oh, look,
No,
for a
it's
minute
not.
there it
There
is.
it is. Okay.
There it is
We
right
got
there.
you. We got it.
Yes,
Oh,
finding a
that's excellent.
space in life. And you know what I noticed too? It's
Okay.
like the same background of what I sent your questions on. If you really look at it, it's got the same
I
background with
do
the
see it.
lights.
Exactly.
I was like, wow, I wonder
Alignment.
could this. So I started reading today. I would have finished your book, but I got on the phone with somebody for 2 hours. But I was about to get into your book. And so you was talking about in your book your two grandpas, which I thought was very interesting. And so can I talk about your mother's grandfather? How he
You sure
passed?
can. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so in her book, um, Jasmine began to explore her family history, because she said it was a lot of silence about her family history, you know. And so she found out that her mother's father was killed. He was in a relationship with a married woman, and her husband killed Jasmine's grandfather. And so her other grandfather died when I think your father was what, real young?
Yes, yeah, I think he was 16 before 18, I believe.
Yeah, so he died real young. So she didn't
Really
get to
young.
know her grandfather. And then one of her grandmothers, she said you wasn't sure if she was an atheist or not.
Right, I wouldn't call her atheist, but I
Yeah,
know you know how some people say, "I have a praying grandmother?" I literally had to say, I'm not saying my grandmother doesn't pray, but I don't have a praying grandmother that I can remember. A friend of mine would say she would see her grandmother on her knees. I'm like, "I've
yeah.
never seen my grandmother on her knees."
Oh,
Am
wow.
I, just being honest and just seeing like,
Yeah.
"No, I don't that's not what we no, that's not how I live."
Hmm. So tell us, I'm gonna let you tell us about finding a space in life. Let me tell y'all, get this book. Is not a big book. I was ready, like
Right.
I said, I was about to knock it out tonight. It was just that good. Tell us about your book.
It's interesting that you brought that out because honestly, I wrote the book because of a mentor. He had asked me some questions about my family, and I was just like, we're Christian. I grew up with my mom and my dad. I have four sisters, and he looked at me, and what he was trying to get at was he started sharing more about his family life, and he's from Australia. So I was just like, okay, well, he knows more of his family lineage. I don't. And I that was the first time anybody asked me that like directly. So he suggested within our time frame, he said, "You know what? Why don't you write a book about your life? And a little bit more, find out more who you are and about your family. Maybe what you're looking for is what you don't know, and maybe that can help you find your space in life." And he was like, you can call it finding the space in life. So when we're talking about designing the life that we want to live or creating, being a healthy life designer, again, it started with myself. It started with me with a mentor suggesting something for me. I didn't have to take a suggestion, but once I started doing it, like what you read, I had to start digging. I started asking my mother, my grandmother, and I just start finding things out that I didn't even know existed. Because again, the story that you mentioned of my grandma, it was like, or my one grandpa, I was just like, okay. I remember looking at pictures. You know, when you go to your grandmother's house or someone's house in your family that has the picture book. Like
Uh-huh.
for those who are too young, like the picture book was actually a book. We didn't have it on our phone, so it was it was I'm an X, a Gen X, so I am, yes, older than a lot of people think I am, but we actually looked at pictures. So I remember opening, and I would see this picture of this gentleman all the time. When I was younger, I never asked who it was, but literally that was my grandpa. But when I started even asking my grandmother more about him, um, and ask my dad, no, excuse me, ask my mom, she started telling me more information, but it was my grandmother who started sharing a little bit more information along with my mom because it was just something that we didn't talk about. But then when I started hearing the truth of the story, I realized why we weren't talking about it. Because there is a lot of shame sometimes that comes
Yeah.
with the truth, especially if it's not the pretty truth. Um, but for me, the reason why it was important for me to find those things out, um, not to point fingers at anyone or to place judgment, but just to understand the dynamics of how some people live. Because what we just talked about with Jesus being in our heart, but grandpa being in our bones, there are things that, from a spiritual perspective too, that there are some things that are associated or connected with the way that we live, and that can go through generational lines. And if I don't know how to see that in the spirit, I'm not trying to get all deep or anything. I can, just like we're talking about living by default, it could be one that just is something that we do, but the other part is, if we're living in a spiritual world, I may need to break something, and stop something in the spirit realm that may be a part of a bloodline, which I have been learning about so much too, and stopping something that we can't see. That's why spiritual is one of the components, because we're living in this world and everything is not physical. Things are happening behind the scenes. And I think that's how sometimes we get to that default mode, and then we're trying to solve it in a way that's not helpful. So me going back to understand some of the mayhem that happened in my family and some of the messiness that happened in my family was helpful for me to see and to know, like, not just the men, even for the women, like how we decide and choose men and how we connect ourselves with other people, what we think of our self esteem. A lot of that started coming out for me. But like we talked about, grandpa being our bones, it could be grandma being our bones, it could be our mothers in our bones, because it's generational. But until we intentionally look at something to say, hey, I'm going to do this differently, um, we continue to live by default.
Mm. I think some people might not always agree when I when I say your first move starts in your mind. Your
That's
first
good.
move, no matter what it is a decision that you make. You have to think it in order to do it. And no matter if you're in a abusive relationship or you just living, like you say, life by default, it comes a time when you say, I'm no longer living like this. And you start to live intentional. Just like somebody that wants to be a doctor, they know they got to
Mhm.
be good in biology, chemistry, and stuff like this. They know what schools they go through. So they live intentionally. And I love to see young people live intentionally. Like, this is what I want I want to do. And the thing is, you got to know who you are and your purpose. Once you know your purpose, that's when you start to live intentionally, because you like, now I know where I'm going. I feel like your purpose is your destination in life. And so if you know where you're going, you know how to map it out, you know how to plan, you know where not to go. If we're going to Chicago, we're not going to cut down by Florida. That's not in the route. Gas is
Exactly.
too high for
Yes. Yes.
that.
Yes.
So once
Exactly.
you know your purpose, you know exactly what path to get on. If you're supposed to
That's
be a
good.
singer, voice lessons, you know what you got to do. But a lot of people are living life by default because they don't know who they are, who they can identify with. They don't. How many times you hear people say, I just don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just don't
Yeah.
know what God wants me to do. And
Yes.
you just feel lost within yourself. But once you
Mhm.
find your purpose and you like, okay, let's start this car up and let's get driving. Because otherwise you just walking left, walking right, you don't know.
That's it. That's it.
And
Yes.
so sometimes you have to go in your past and you'll figure out, when I was a child, I always like to do this. Like, when I went back in my past, I'm gonna tell you what I love to do: teach and play with paperwork. I love to organize paperwork. I love chalkboards.
Mhm.
I love, every time we played school, I was always the teacher. And so my gift is teaching. So this year I said, be intentional and teach, Kay. That don't mean classroom. Teach
Yes.
people what you know in business. Because it's
Yes.
somebody that don't know what you know. So I had to go back and figure out who I was. Who I became was by default who my family wanted me to be, who my friends
Mhm.
thought I should be, who my
Mhm.
guys I was dating thought I
Yes.
should be. So you're
Yes.
right. We need a healthy life designer, which is beyond, like they say, it's like coaching, but in a different level. Like you say, you
Yes.
hit in 7 areas. Is it nine?
6. It's 6
Six.
areas. Yes,
Six.
6
Girl,
areas.
I done
Yes.
multiplied. I done added, like,
We're
I
gonna
don't even
add
know.
one.
Right. I done add. I don't even know what that one is.
Yes, we're gonna
We'll
put
come
that
up
one.
with right. I done added some to your list. You like, I'm busy now. I'm just dealing with
Like,
here you go
hold
to my
on.
7 and 9.
But you
So
know what? Yes,
uh-huh.
I love that you said that about a healthy life designer. That's why I didn't want to call it coaching. But the
Yeah.
other part is that I believe that each person can be their own healthy life designer. So the
Yes.
goal would be to have people see, hey, I'm going to be the designer of my own life and I will be a healthy life designer. So it's not something I'm just making up to say, hey, it's exclusive to me. Dr. K, you're a healthy life designer if you want to live by design. You know what I mean? Like so like
Yes.
the 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 doors are open, okay? The doors are open for everybody.
You sharing. Thank you.
Share the wealth.
So,
Yes.
so what does a healthy life look for someone who's found their space in life? It's funny that you're talking about designing, and most people are designing space. So it connects. So what
Yes.
does a healthy life look like for someone?
That that's a great question. What a healthy life looks like for someone is living with intention. And living with intention is having a vision or having a picture or having what you talked about, a purpose that they want and that we want for our lives. It could be simple as I want to have a beautiful family. And family for some people, it may not be a marriage, but what's called now chosen family. I want to have a family that I can call. And when I say that, people may look like, well, how can you have a family that's outside of marriage? You could have friends. Some people, I'm not married. And I read your book. You're not married at this time, but you have a community. You
Mhm.
can call that community your family. But having that vision to say, I want people around me that will support me and that I can support. It's an intention, it's a vision, and it's not even a plan yet, but it's having that clear sight of what you want. And then when you're finding your space in life, It is being okay enough to say, I may not know everything, but I'm willing to ask. And I think
Mm.
asking is a big key in finding your space in life. Because think about what I told you. My mentor, um, he suggested that I write this book. Writing the book wasn't even on my radar. I'm not one of those people who were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to write a book. I wasn't even thinking about it. But because somebody offered it, because I was looking for my voice, I was looking for answers. And I will have to interject this, that previous month, um, when I found Healthy by Design to be something that I had on that that large post-it, my sister provided me with this book called Emotional Healthy Spirituality. It's by Peter Scazzaro. He's a pastor, and he was a pastor. It was like 17 years at the time, and it was he's married. He has 4 children. But this is where I even learned the term Jesus may be in your heart, but grandpa is in your bones. And that was the first time I heard somebody transparently talk about their life, meaning that he was a pastor for all of those years, but there were parts of his life and his heart, again, going back in his life, that Jesus had never touched. So when you're talking about, I'm a person of faith, I a kingdom woman, so I believe in Christ. So as a disciple or someone being discipled by his principles, I am to live a life that looks differently from others. But if I don't know my purpose, or if I don't know I'm worthy, if I don't know I'm loving, if I don't know I am loved, if I don't know I'm unconditionally loved, I'm going to be looking for all of those things all outside of me. And I get lost because a lot of people will tell us a whole lot of different things about ourselves.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about it. I'm a black woman in these here United States. I am a statistic by so many measures of, like, if we were to run down things. But if I'm listening and taking my cue from what someone else says, I don't have that much purpose or hope. And I do this because it's like, I mean, I'm just a statistic. But when I know I'm loved, when I know I'm worthy, and when I say that, I want people to hear it. That's the way that you find your space sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You be intentional to say, like, I don't feel worthy, but if, like my mentor, someone else is giving me a suggestion, let me be curious enough to follow the suggestion to see if it's true or not. And I think that's the easiest way that I can tell somebody to do something. Be curious enough to see if it's true or not. Be open. So be curious, be open, and be willing. Because some of the things that we learn, like Peter Scazzaro said, he was just like, these are just certain things that we were doing for generations, for
Yeah.
generations. And like
Mm-hmm.
he's like generations, and it's just something that I do. So I will talk to the people who are a faith based, because think about how many times you could go to a church building, but you're still irritated with people. You still cuss people out, and you still, when I say cuss people out, I'm just saying like being mean spirited. Some people are
Oh.
mean spirited. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yes.
being able to shift that and acknowledge, like, we've just always had mean people around. And I've just thought that just this is just how it is. But it can be a shift. It's just gonna take some digging and what's called excavating. The first time I went to, like, this is basic, and like I'm not a mental therapist, but before the Scazzeros, I had a genogram. And what it does is just plots out your family for generations.
Uh-huh.
And then truthfully and like graciously, God taught through Peter Scazzero, because they have a process where you genogram your family. So you can see the patterns in your life, so that you can see the patterns in your generations and see where you would need to, like we said, start making decisions of, okay, we had abuse here, we had divorce here, we had cutoffs here, we had breakdowns, and you could have good things too. But again, even with the good, you have to decide if you want to continue that. But unfortunately, a lot of us did not have the best. So if we did not have that, we're going to have to look at it some way and say what we want. And
Mm,
that, in a nutshell, it seems overwhelming, but it's not. You just have to take it step by step. And I'm telling you, because I'm living proof, I felt overwhelmed at first because it was like, well, how am I supposed to change all of this? But I'm telling you, each person that's listening or who will listen to this, it's not that you have to do it all at once. You just have to be curious enough to be willing and be
mhm.
intentional enough to go down that path. And then I promise you, it'll start coming together.
You know who I thought about in the Bible was you talking about someone who has a healthy life? The Proverbs 31 woman.
There you have it.
She had a healthy life. And with that note, we're about to take a break, see what people are saying on Facebook about us, because they always be talking about us, Jasmine. Be saying little slick stuff,
tell us,
you know,
tell us what they're
like
saying.
they like us when they really love us. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to say whatever you want to say. And while you do that, I'm going to be checking out Facebook.
Okay. As she is checking out Facebook, I just want to encourage you, if you are feeling overwhelmed, you don't have to feel overwhelmed. I actually have created a workbook and it's called Healthy by Design. It has been part of the process that I have been going on. You can find it at www.hbdbook.com. That's for Healthy by Design. Because you can create the life you love. It's going to take intention, it's going to take community, and it's going to take some work, but it's very worth it. And I believe in you, and I want you to believe in you too. So thank you.
Right. All right. We're going to get into the second part of our show. We had
Okay.
Blair Cherie out there. She said,
Hey,
hello, ladies.
hey.
How y'all ladies doing? Hey, Blair Cherie, she's faithful. One thing I can say, she does digital designs. She helps with
Nice.
marketing items too, tablecloths, all that stuff like that. She is
Oh,
very good. She
nice.
does all my marketing. She does my t-shirts. I'm giving her a plug because she's out there in the audience. And so
Oh,
I've
yeah.
shared our video to my other pages, my other groups. So there's plenty of people watching. So hey, people, hey,
Hi, everybody.
yes, y'all missed part one, but you're in time for part two. So part two, we switch it up. So in the beginning, we talked about Jasmine being a healthy life designer. We talked about her book, Finding a Space in Life. Go to Amazon. You can find her book on Amazon, and you can find it on your website too.
Yes, yes. So the
Okay.
hbdbook.com, it's on there too. Yes.
Okay. It's hdbook.com.
HBD, so Healthy by Design. I
Okay.
had
Healthy by Design. HB is in boy, D is in
D as
die,
in boy, D as in dad. Yes, book.com.
book.com. Okay,
Yes.
that's a tongue twister.
We got it. Yeah.
I got it. And so we talked about what a healthy life look like when you have found your space in life. And I think the biggest problem in the world today is people have not found their space in life. They have not found who they are. They searching
Yes.
for that. It's a
Yes.
lot of lost people out there, and they
Yes.
want to entangle people that know who they are with their lostness. But that's what we're there for, to direct them to a healthy life and to help
Yes.
them find their space, find their spot. Because God has placed, He has a purpose for each one of us, and that means He has a place. A place is a purpose. So I
Mm-hmm.
just want to thank you for helping people in those 6 areas
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
talked. I got it right. 6 areas that you talked about in her workbook. So if you're ready for a healthy life, if you're ready for
Mhm.
Jasmine to help you get that healthy life and find your space, because some of us is all over the place because we haven't found our purpose. She is here
Mhm.
to help you. So we're gonna switch it up. We're gonna talk about my favorite subject, which is relationships. Oh goodness, relationships. Y'all know,
Yeah.
ladies, we like to get together, and men, and talk about relationships. So we're going to start talking about, you emphasize creating environments where healthy relationships can thrive. What are some
Mhm.
practical steps people can take to build these environments to create healthy relationships? We hear all the time about toxic one, but how do we know how to do toxic? How do we do
Yeah.
healthy? Help us out,
Yes. Yes.
Jasmine.
No, that's awesome because that's where it started for me. So in the first area, it starts for me to, I will say in this framework, with our emotions. And again, it goes back to when I say our emotions, I'm not saying fix ourselves. understanding how we show up, become self aware. If I'm emotionally all over the place, if I'm emotionally unstable, if I'm emotionally a wreck, no judgment, but find out why. Get healed. That's the first thing. Like, I'm gonna put one finger up. Be okay with the healing process because just as hurt people, healed people heal people. And I
Mhm.
say that's practical. Let me tell you, it's not the easiest method and it's not the easiest message to hear because it's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I just want to be in a relationship. I think that's what a lot of people are doing. It's like, it's like we all want $1 million, but the process to get $1 million, it's a process. So for healthy relationship skills to be, I am doing it and I have done it and I will continue to do it myself. First, we have to learn it. If we don't know healthy relationship skills, we have to learn it. The first course that I took, again, with Peter Scazzero's, the one thing about the workbook, it's not me teaching everybody how to do things. I'm connecting you to the resources that help me. So the Healthy Relationship Skills course by Pete and Jerry Scazzero, I highly recommend it. It's actually one of the, again, resources in the emotional part for the book. So we have to learn it, but we also have to develop it. That means like it's not a matter of me being the one like, oh, you teach me how to do it. It's like, no, I have to develop like I develop a muscle, but then we also have to continue to practice it. It's not like higher academia in what we know. It's like the higher that you go, the more people think you know it all. No, it's a practice. You have to continue practice. After you learn, develop, and practice what you are learning in order to thrive. It's not just saying, I want this and then I get it. I'm gonna give you a very practical example. So this is, you probably here, yep, you can see it this way. So this is my first cut of Healthy by Design, the workbook.
Mhm.
It's on copy paper.
Mhm.
There we go. There we
Healthy
go.
by design. Okay, we
Healthy by
got it.
Design. I came up with the idea after going through, and hopefully, yep, you'll see the 6 circles. So these are the areas, 6 areas.
Okay.
The 6 areas I drew with a circle with my nephew. We went out to dinner for his birthday, and I wasn't creating the book for this. So hopefully you can follow me with this. So practically, I just in every circle, and every circle had one of the 6 areas. I said, Trevor, let's think about one thing, no more than 3 that we want to see that happens in our life for the next year. Because practically speaking, with healthy relationships, we want to have everything all at once, but we're not willing to do one thing. So, like
Wow.
again, you know, we have to be willing to heal, or we have to be willing to look at what may not be the best in our relationships. And then what I ended up having to do is I was able to create the idea and like I knew what I wanted to see. But then, like you have somebody who helps you market or design. I was like,
Mhm.
I need somebody to help me make this look pretty because I don't know how to do that. It would take me forever to do it. I'm not saying I can't, but that's what we have to do with our relationships. We have to go outside of ourselves. And this is like one of the iterations.
Okay.
So you can, oh, here, I'll put it this way. You can see like it starts to take form with color
Yeah.
and shape.
Mhm.
So you see things. And then finally, this is like one of the prototypes.
Oh,
I
that's
have a
pretty.
workbook now. Yes. The
Oh, that's
workbook,
beautiful.
yes, has come together because I was willing, like with our relationships, we have to be willing to stop and know what we want or put down what we want and say what we do want and stop talking about what we don't want. And when I talk about healthy, for me, I want to be in emotionally maturing, meaning like we can talk about toxic. I don't want to be in relationships where people, what do they call them? Frenemies. Like people
Uh-huh.
like to hate me. Like just let's not be in my presence if we're going to do that. but we also have to chart it out.
Mhm.
And then we also have to be willing to let other people who are healthy in. It may be a coach, it may be a healthy life designer, it may be a therapist. I mean, and honestly, it can be all of them. I have a coach, I have a therapist, I have communities that I'm now in that it wasn't my natural norm. I met you through a friend. And if
Yeah.
I were to say, like, hey, I don't really know who this person is, and if I just stayed to my own, us four and no more, I wouldn't be in this um, connection with you. And we've had wonderful conversations together, and I'm
Yes.
looking forward, yeah,
To
to get to
more.
know you more. Yes,
So
yes, yes. So
so
I
it's
think that's just practical, like just knowing what you want to have and not just what you don't want to have, and being willing to ask for help and being willing to learn something different, practice it, develop it so that you can thrive.
so once again, being intentional.
Exactly.
Oh, oh, we got some. Oh, um, Facebook.
You
We
good?
got, yeah. Gwen said toxic relationship starts with not identifying the root cause of your true feelings. Communication, even when it don't feel right. You said stop masking your feelings in the relationship, which is so true because
Yes.
I was thinking about what you were saying. When you're healthy, you heal. And you're right. A lot of people toxic get with toxic, and it
Yes.
equals toxic. Toxic plus toxic equals toxic.
Yes.
Toxic plus healthy can equal toxic, or it can equal healthy. It depends
Yeah.
on if that person comes into the relationship with trying to heal you versus change you. And I think
Yeah.
we as women, we think we're change agents. We don't, we say we help meets, but we end up being in a relationship being change agents because
That's
what
it.
you see in a man is what you gonna get. I don't know how we,
That's
if we
it.
have to print out t-shirts, bumper stickers, headbands. What you see in a man is basically what you're gonna get. You know,
Yes. Yes.
that,
Exactly.
we always live on that 1% of the man that changed, that 1% of that story that we heard, girl, my husband was like this, but now he's like that. We live off
Right.
hope. We live off fairy tales because we've been fed fairy tales. The prince is going
Yeah.
to come riding a horse. Nobody rides a horse to date anymore, but we still waiting on that prince in China. The only prince is taken right now, I think, is Harry and William. They're taken right now, and the other princes don't matter. Prince don't matter. But we
They're
have to
too
be
young.
real
Exactly.
about relationships. We haven't been taught about them. We just blindly
Mhm.
go. We learn as we go. It's just like, and I thought about this. We was talking about putting relationships together. It's just like you get some furniture. You don't read the instructions. Oh, I got
Mm.
this. I ain't got time to read the instructions. Let me put this together. Then you find you done put something backwards. Here's a piece laying over here that you
Right.
like, oh boy, where did this?
Missing.
Yeah, you done miss it. And the
Exactly.
thing never stands up right. It never functions as it should function because you never stop to get the good instruction. You never stop to get healed. You never
Yes.
stop to look at this person and say, what do they need from the relationship versus me telling them all the time, I need you to do this. I need you this and that. What do they need from the relationship? Relationships
You
is two, not one. So
you
we
are
got a
hitting
few
on
minutes.
something.
So go ahead.
Yep. But you're hitting on something that I want to back to. I
Okay.
think a lot of, especially women, I can say for me, what I've learned is that we don't do that for ourselves. So we can't, when we're in relationships with others, there's this disconnect because, like you're saying, we're trying to get somebody else to do something where we're not even comfortable with ourselves. So I think that's why I'm saying, like, we have to know for ourselves first. Silence is golden,
Mhm.
and being able to sit in silence and do the healing. I will end this with the last thing that I will say. My mother, who's over 70, last year, she asked me to help her because she knew I was doing the healthy relationships course with like different family and friends. She wanted to go through the course. My mother is a grandmother. My dad is no longer with us. He passed away in 2008. But no matter if we're still married, widowed, divorced, grandparent, all of the things, if we don't know how to have a relationship, one, healthy with ourselves, that's what
Yes.
bogs down a relationship with anybody else. So I will leave it at that, where people are trying to get, okay, how do I get this person? First of all, we have to be the person. And literally, that's the work. When I say healthy life designing, it's like this isn't a program, a fix or something. This is how you're going to live either the rest of your life or no. It's not a easy. I'm not trying to sell anybody this, like you said, this fly by night, this hope
Yeah.
or wish. This is things that I want to change personally for me, and I think that's what people really need to know with relationships. What do you really truly want? And then you'll start attracting healthier people, and you'll start seeing, I don't even want to call it toxic anymore. I say unhealthy, because sometimes when people talk to me a certain way, I mean, I still can respond, but it's like, oh, I won't be in their presence. I don't even have to tell them. It's just like, and I'm not ghosting them or anything. It's just that I'm healthy now. So I'm like, oh no, I don't like you. If I don't eat meat, I just don't eat meat. I don't have to tell you why I don't eat meat and all of that, because I'm healthy now. So when I'm in a healthy environment and in a healthy relationship mindset, I don't go around certain places anymore, because guess what? I don't participate in that. So if that helps, I hope people are able to know that you are worthy to do the healing work yourself, because I promise you that's the best healed relationship. My parents were married over 30 years, and I have stories about that too. You'll be able to see that in the book, that I learned that just because you are married to somebody, that doesn't mean you're in a healthy relationship.
Oh
So,
yeah. So let me hit you with this one. You just which one? Which of these is the key components of relationship failure? We have like 1 minute. Is it
uh-huh.
communication or lack of understanding a person needs?
I think it is a lack of self-awareness,
Hmm.
because we bring our false selves to the relationship, and then when we start becoming who we truly are, then we're like, "What's happening?" So I think for me, it's a lack of self-awareness.
Good answer. Good. I'm
Mhm,
gonna go with communication, only because I
mhm.
read a lot of romance, Christian romance now. I read Christian romance, but I've been reading romance since I was in the fourth grade. I was the only
Got it.
child that had an adult magazine. Well, wasn't adult like that, but they had true stories, had
Sure.
all the romance in them. I'm in the fourth grade reading about romance, but it was clean. But it was always communication. It was like, I like her, she like me. I don't know how to tell her, and then they get together. Well, I couldn't tell them that. It's always the theme is a lack of communication. I just be like,
Mm,
now I'll be like, just tell them you engaged. Just tell them, you know.
right. But I would agree with you,
Yeah.
because it connects to self-awareness though. You know
Yes,
what I'm
it
saying? Like,
does.
you don't know how to communicate a certain way. So it's like, if you were more self-aware, or like handle that, communicate to yourself, and then you
Hmm.
can communicate to somebody else. So yes, I would do communication, but I just really think like we pick terms, and then we're not like, what's the real underlying issue?
Hmm.
So that's what I would agree with.
Okay. All right. We're in agreement. So, all right,
Yeah.
everybody. Jasmine is going to give us a 1 minute close, and we'll be done for the night. Jasmine, 1 minute to close out, honey.
Thank you so much again for allowing me to be on this show. I wish you and your viewers the best 2025 that you have ever seen. And then again, Healthy by Design is not something that's a program, but it really is a lifestyle that I am wanting everyone who is willing to take the journey for yourself. And if you want to connect with me, you can www.hb as in boy, D as in dad, book.com. So Healthy by Design book.com. And that's a workbook where I'm going to have workshops in this year too. So thank you again so much for having me on.
Hey, it has been my pleasure to have you as my guest, Jasmine. You have just dropped so many healthy tips to us. We have to get healthy ourselves. We try to help other people get healthy, and we're bleeding on them. We have to first stop our blood, and then help somebody else, because we
Yes.
as women, we feel like we're fixers, but we're not fixers, because we cannot fix ourselves. We have to pray. As they say,
Yeah.
we have to pray for the people that's in our lives. Even our friends, we try to fix them. And I just learned to put people in the category that they are. I can cry on your shoulders, but this friend, I cannot ever even tell them I cried as a baby because I know they're going to roast me. So you just got to know what
Wow.
category to put people
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
and deal with people accordingly. Some people are just who they are. Even though we think we see so much potential in people, and as women, that's just our neck because we look at our kids and see what our kids can be. We look at our husband and see what he can be. But it's hard for us to look at ourselves,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
say, it's hard self-assessment. It's hard for
Mhm.
us to assess ourselves. So ladies, I want you to get her workbook. She done gave out her website, and if you look up in the posting section, you can find her website. I think I have to change it because I had HDB. I don't think I have the book in there. HBD. I don't have
Okay.
the book in there. Yeah. So
Okay.
if you want to put it in the well, I'll put it in the Facebook chat for you when we're finished. So all right. Thank you, everyone. I will be back next week at 9:30. 8:30. I sound like somebody stuck me with a pen. So I'll be back at
I
8:30
love it.
p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another wonderful guest. Not as wonderful as Miss Jasmine. She's the first guest of the year. So she is the most wonderful. That is her title for the whole year. Most wonderful guest of
I love
all.
it. I love
And so
it.
everybody have a great and wonderful day. If you are watching the replay, thank you so much. Go to my YouTube page. It's called Ruby Girl for Life, and just like it. And thank you so much. And please make sure you get her book, Finding a Space in Life. I'm telling you, I'm going to finish that book this week. So everybody out there, thank you for watching us tonight.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.